My name is Natalia and I've spent most of my life alone. My parents died from cancer when I was just 7, leaving me to be raised by my aunt. She was my everything, my anchor, my guide, my only family. When she passed away shortly before my wedding, I thought I'd found a new family in Vincent, my then fiancé. We've been married for 3 years, living in a modest one-story house in the suburbs that we could barely afford. It was in a decent neighborhood, and when we got married, it made sense to stay there. Vincent moved his things in and I genuinely believed we had the perfect setup. I worked from home as a freelance writer, specializing in health and lifestyle articles for various magazines and websites, which meant I could manage both my career and our home life effectively. The income was unpredictable though, some months good, others barely enough to cover my student loan payments. You know what's great about this house? Vincent would often say, sprawled on our couch after dinner. It's big enough for family visits. My folks would love it here, he said. I'd smile nervously whenever he brought this up, my stomach tightening at the thought of our tight budget. Well, maybe, I'd reply, trying to hide my discomfort. The thought of house guests made me uneasy, especially when I was already struggling to make ends meet, but I never really expressed this to Vincent. Everything changed the day Vincent's sister Carmen showed up unannounced with her 2 teenage kids, Marcus and Emma. I still remember opening the door and seeing them standing there, luggage in hand and Carmen sporting a fresh bruise on her cheek. Surprise! Carmen exclaimed, pushing past me into the house. We had to get out. Jake got violent again. I stood there frozen as her children, Marcus and Emma, ran straight to our small living room, tracking mud across the carpet I'd just vacuumed. Vincent appeared behind me, his face lighting up. Nat, isn't this great? Carmen and the kids can stay in the guest room. You can move your office to the kitchen table, he said. The office? I stammered. But that's where I work. Where my computer and all my research materials are, I added. You can work anywhere, honey, he said, already carrying their bags down the hallway. It's just temporary, until Carmen gets back on her feet, he said. That first night, as I lay awake listening to the chaos in our small house, Marcus and Emma arguing loudly, Carmen on the phone complaining about her ex-husband, I had no idea this was just the beginning. I couldn't have known that this moment would set in motion a series of events that would completely drain my savings and destroy my peace of mind. The next few weeks were absolute hell. Carmen's kids were completely out of control. I'd never seen teenagers behave this way before, and I'd written plenty of articles about troubled youth. Hey, fake aunt, Marcus would sneer at me across the breakfast table, his phone blasting music. Where's my breakfast? Marcus, I tried to reason with him, first, please turn that down, and second, you're perfectly capable of making your own cereal. Whatever, hypocrite, Emma would chime in, deliberately leaving her dirty dishes on the counter. Mom says we don't have to listen to you because you're just pretending to be successful. I'd look at Carmen, expecting her to correct them, but she'd just sit there scrolling through her phone, occasionally glancing up to say things like, they're just acting out because of the divorce, or, they're expressing their trauma. One particularly trying morning, I was trying to meet a crucial deadline for a wellness article when Carmen barged into my makeshift workspace at the kitchen table. The kids need lunch money, she announced as if I was her personal ATM. Something for the school cafeteria, maybe $20 each. Carmen, I have a really important deadline, I started. Oh please, she interrupted, rolling her eyes. You just sit at home all day typing. That's not real work, unlike being a single mother, she said. The days blurred together in an endless cycle of cooking, cleaning, and trying to salvage my work responsibilities while my bank account slowly drained. The kids would leave their rooms a disaster, stream videos at full volume during my client calls, and eat through our grocery budget in days. The worst part? Vincent seemed completely blind to it all. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Carmen found a small apartment across town. The morning Carmen and the kids left, I took Vincent aside for a serious conversation. Vincent, we need to talk about what just happened, I said, still exhausted from the ordeal and worried about our drained savings account. What do you mean? He replied, genuinely puzzled. It was great having them here, he said. No, it wasn't, I said firmly. Carmen's kids were completely disrespectful, she didn't contribute a single dollar, and I couldn't get any work done. My income dropped by 40% last month. Please don't invite anyone else without discussing it with me first, I said. Vincent looked taken aback but nodded. Okay, honey. I promise I'll talk to you first next time. I spent the next few weeks trying to restore both our home and my financial stability. The house needed deep cleaning, my work deadlines had piled up dangerously high, and I was behind on 3 major article submissions. During this time, I also started tracking our expenses more carefully, something that made my stomach churn. Vincent, I said one evening, I need to mention that we're really tight on money right now. Carmen's stay cost us almost $1,500 in groceries and utilities, I said. He waved his hand dismissively. Don't worry about that. Actually, why don't I just handle all the finances? That way you won't have to stress about money anymore, he said. I reluctantly agreed, though I continued to contribute my freelance earnings to our joint account as usual. 6 months passed and life had finally returned to normal, or so I thought. I was catching up on work one Tuesday morning when I heard Vincent's excited voice from the kitchen. Of course you can stay with us, Dad. We have plenty of room. You and Mom can take the master bedroom, we'll figure something out, he said. My stomach dropped. I rushed to the kitchen just in time to hear his father saying something about his construction business going under and needing a place to regroup. Vincent, I whispered urgently, tugging at his sleeve, can we talk about this first? He covered the phone with his hand. My dad's business failed. They need somewhere to stay while they figure things out. What's there to talk about? He said. That evening we had our first real fight in months. You promised me, Vincent. You promised we'd discuss these things together, I said. What do you want me to do, Nat? He snapped. They're my parents. I can't leave them homeless. Stop being so selfish, he said. The next morning his parents arrived with enough luggage to survive an apocalypse. Within hours, his mother Rosalind had rearranged my kitchen cabinets, criticized my choice of organic cleaning products, and commented on how I was wasting money on fancy groceries. Natalia, dear, she called from the living room where she was directing her husband Duncan about furniture placement. When you're done with whatever it is you do on that computer, we need to talk about the household budget. Something more practical than those expensive health foods you buy, she added. I gritted my teeth. Rosalind, I'm actually working right now. I have a deadline for a wellness article, I said. Working? She laughed, looking at Duncan. Sitting at home all day typing isn't real work. Now, about cutting expenses, she said. Days blurred together. I tried to write articles while Rosalind stood over my shoulder commenting on my posture and a wasteful habits. I'd be researching health trends while she demanded I help Duncan apply for jobs online. Apparently, I'd been managing money wrong my entire adult life. Vincent, I pleaded one evening, I need help. I can't keep up with everything and support 4 people on my freelance income. You're right, he said, and for a moment I felt relief. You should probably cut back on work, he said. I smiled, grateful, until he added, Dad and I are thinking about a fishing trip. Get some real father-son bonding time while we figure out his next business venture. A fishing trip? I couldn't believe my ears. That's not what I meant, I said. But he was already looking up fishing lodges online, excited as a kid at Christmas. The next morning he and Duncan left for their bonding experience, leaving me alone with Rosalind. Well, she said, hands on her hips as the door closed behind them, since you're not busy with that little computer hobby of yours, we can finally get this household budget sorted out properly. I looked at my laptop where 3 urgent emails from editors sat unanswered, then at Rosalind's determined face. In that moment, I realized something had fundamentally shifted in my marriage, and not for the better. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, only a day after Vincent and my father left for their fishing trip, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Carmen standing there with Marcus and Emma, surrounded by even more luggage than last time. Surprise. She pushed past me, kids in tow. The kids have been dying to see Grandma and Grandpa. We couldn't stay away, she said. I stood in the doorway, my mind refusing to process what was happening. Rosalind appeared behind me, squealing with delight. My babies. She hugged the children. Carmen, darling. You're just in time. Natalia was about to start dinner, she said. I wasn't about to start dinner. I was about to join a critical video call with a potential new client, but nobody cared about that. Actually, I have an important work meeting. Always with the excuses, Carmen rolled her eyes. Mom told me you just sit at that computer all day pretending to be busy, she said. The next few days were absolute torture. While Vincent and Duncan were off enjoying their fishing trip, I was trapped in a house of chaos. The kids ran wild through every room, leaving destruction in their wake. Carmen spent her days video calling friends, complaining about my controlling behavior. Rosalind criticized everything I did, from my cleaning methods to my wasteful spending habits. Nobody lifted a finger to help, but they all had opinions about how I wasn't contributing enough to the family. When Vincent and his father finally returned from their fishing trip 5 days later, I was ready for a serious conversation. I'd rehearsed it in my head, firm but fair, explaining how impossible the situation had become and how my work was suffering. But before I could get a word in, Vincent burst through the door beaming with joy. Isn't this amazing? He spread his arms wide, taking in the chaos of our once peaceful home. The whole family together. We should do this more often, he said. I felt the room spin. More often? I asked. Dad and I were talking while fishing, and you know what would be great? If we all lived together for a while, like a real family. Think of all the money we could save on rent and utilities, he said. The children ran past us, tracking mud across the floor I'd just mopped. Carmen yelled from upstairs about needing money for new clothes. Rosalind appeared to remind me it was almost dinner time and that we needed to discuss our household expenses. Vincent, I managed to choke out, can we talk privately? Later, honey, he waved me off. Dad's showing everyone the business plan for his comeback. That night I lay awake in our cramped guest room, listening to the chaos above. Our bedroom, now occupied by Vincent's parents, creaked with every movement. Carmen's kids were still streaming videos despite the late hour. Someone was raiding the refrigerator again. My phone buzzed with another email from an editor. Second missed deadline this week. We need to discuss your contract, it said. My life had become a nightmare. I was surrounded by family members who treated me like their personal ATM, teenagers who destroyed everything they touched, and a husband who couldn't or wouldn't see what was happening to our finances. The next morning I woke up early, determined to get some work done before everyone else got up. I'd started barricading myself in the home office, my last sanctuary in this chaos. But when I opened the door, my heart sank. Carmen was sitting at my desk, my laptop open in front of her, while Marcus and Emma sprawled on the floor surrounded by energy drink cans and fast food wrappers. Oh good, you're up, Carmen didn't even look at me. The kids need help with their college applications. We're using your laptop for research, she said. That's my work laptop, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I have 3 articles due today. Don't be so selfish, Carmen cut me off. This is for their future. You can do your little typing hobby later, she said. I found Vincent in the kitchen, grabbing his briefcase for work. Vincent, they've taken over my office. They're using my laptop. I can't work, I said. Not now, Nat, he rushed past me, checking his watch. I'm late for a meeting. Just share the laptop, okay? It's for the kids' education, he said. Feeling dizzy, I headed to the bathroom. Maybe a shower would help me think clearly. But when I opened the bathroom door, I nearly vomited. The toilet was clogged with paper towels and food scraps. Wet footprints tracked through the mess across the tile floor. Toothpaste smeared the mirror and walls. Oh, Emma's voice piped up behind me, we were doing face masks and stuff. Marcus said it was fine to rinse everything down the sink and toilet, she said. I stood there staring at the destruction. Somewhere in the house I could hear Rosalind complaining about the grocery bill. Carmen was demanding gas money for a trip to the mall. The toilet gurgled ominously. Something inside me snapped. Without saying a word, I cleaned up the bathroom. Every swipe of the mop, every scrub of the walls felt like another dollar draining from my emergency fund. When I finished, I went to our bedroom, the guest room now, and looked around at what my life had become. The next morning I waited until Vincent left for work. I listened to his car pull out of the driveway, counted to 60, then moved with quiet efficiency. I packed a small bag, some clothes, toiletries, my phone charger. The only thing I really needed was my laptop, which I managed to recover from the office while Carmen was in the kitchen complaining about the breakfast I hadn't made. Nobody noticed when I slipped out the front door. Nobody called out to ask where I was going. The hotel I checked into wasn't fancy, but it had 3 things my house no longer offered: silence, privacy, and the ability to work without interruption. For the first time in weeks, I could hear myself think. I took the longest shower of my life, ordered room service, and actually managed to get some work done. I submitted 2 overdue articles and started catching up on my deadlines. I kept expecting my phone to explode with messages. Surely Vincent would notice I was gone. Surely he'd be worried. Surely someone would wonder where the person who did all the cooking, cleaning, and bill paying had disappeared to. But as the hours ticked by, my phone remained silent. No missed calls, no frantic text messages, no concern at all for where I'd gone or why. After 3 days of silence, I decided to go home. Not because I missed them, but because I needed answers. As I approached our front door, I heard music and laughter spilling out into the street. What I walked into felt like a punch to the gut. A full-blown party was in progress. Streamers hung from the ceiling, plates of expensive takeout covered every surface, and dozens of unfamiliar faces filled our living room. Nobody noticed me slip inside. Through the crowd, I spotted Vincent dancing with Carmen in the middle of the room, both of them laughing. More relatives I'd never met were sprawled across our furniture, drinking and chatting as if they owned the place. I moved through the party like a ghost until I found myself near the kitchen. That's when I heard them. And the best part is, Vincent's mother Rosalind was saying to a woman I didn't recognize, "We didn't have to spend a dime on rent or groceries." Duncan's business failure was actually a blessing in disguise, she said. The woman chuckled. Clever. And you got a free meal ticket out of the deal too, the woman said. Yes, that Natalia, Rosalind's voice dripped with contempt, though she's not much of a provider. Always complaining about her little writing hobby. Can you believe she actually ran away 3 days ago? Not that anyone misses her nagging about money, she said. They burst into laughter. I stood frozen, their words hitting me like physical blows. It had all been a lie. The failed business, the urgent need for help, all of it fabricated so they could have a free place to live at my expense. Something inside me snapped. I pushed through the crowd until I found Vincent, still dancing and drinking without a care in the world. We need to talk, I grabbed his arm. Now, I said. He followed me to the hallway, looking annoyed at being pulled away from his fun. Your mom just told everyone your dad's business failure was fake, I said, my voice shaking. They just wanted free room and board. Did you know about this? I asked. He shrugged, and in that casual gesture I saw our entire marriage crumble. So what if I did? Their family. They needed help, he said. Help? I hissed. I'm the one who's been paying for everything while they insulted me and drained our savings. And you knew it was all a lie? I said. Oh, stop being so dramatic, he sneered. You don't understand because you have no real family, he said. The words hit me like a slap. Images flashed through my mind. My parents' long battle with cancer, my aunt struggling to raise me alone, her empty chair at our wedding. That's right, he continued, his voice cruel, you're just a lonely orphan who doesn't understand what it means to support family. Your measly freelance income barely covers groceries anyway. Maybe if you had real family, you'd understand sacrifice, he said. Tears burned in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Without a word, I walked to our former bedroom and gathered what remained of my belongings. Behind me, the party continued as if nothing had happened. No one tried to stop me, not even Vincent. I'd barely settled into my hotel room and started apartment hunting online when my phone rang. Seeing Miss Chen's number flash across my screen made my stomach clench. Natalia, Miss Chen's voice was tight with tension. I've been receiving numerous complaints from the neighbors about your property. My former property, I corrected her. I don't live there anymore. The lease was transferred to Vincent Martinez, my husband, remember? I said. There was a heavy pause on the line. Yes, well, the neighbors are reporting loud parties, excessive noise at all hours, children running wild in the yard, and multiple unauthorized residents, she said. That sounds terrible, I said, keeping my voice neutral, but as I said, it's not my responsibility anymore. Ms. Chun sighed deeply. I want you to know that I'll be forced to take the harshest measures allowed under the lease agreement. I'm only calling you as a courtesy because you were such a good tenant for so long, she said. I appreciate the heads up, I replied, but you'll need to discuss this with Vincent. After hanging up, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I didn't bother warning Vincent about the call. Let him deal with the consequences of his choices for once. I found a lovely studio apartment in a quiet building across town. The landlady was a retired teacher who lived downstairs and appreciated that I worked from home. It's good to have someone around during the day, she said. For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night without being awakened by midnight raids on the refrigerator or early morning chaos. Then, 2 weeks into my peaceful life, Vincent called. Nat, we're in serious trouble, he blurted before I could speak. Ms. Chun showed up today with eviction papers. She's demanding triple rent for the month plus some ridiculous fine, he said. Did you know it was against the lease to have more than 4 people living here? Why didn't you tell me? He asked. I continued typing my article, letting him ramble. I did tell you, I replied calmly. Multiple times. You didn't want to listen, I said. Well, I didn't read the whole lease when we transferred it, he admitted. Look, can you talk to Ms. Chen? She liked you. Maybe you can explain, he asked me for help. Explain what? I cut him off. That you moved your entire extended family into a rental property without permission? That you've been hosting parties and disturbing the neighbors? That you ignored every warning I gave you about the lease agreement? I asked. The neighbors called the police last night, he continued desperately. Your parents got fined for noise violations. Carmen's kids were running through the neighborhood at midnight and someone complained. We need your help, Nat. You know how to handle these things. I thought about all the times I'd handled things for them, all the times I'd stretched my budget to cover their expenses. No, I said simply. No? What do you mean, no? He asked. I mean no. You have a whole big, close-knit family there to help you, remember? The real family you said I wouldn't understand because I have no real family. Goodbye, Vincent, I said. I hung up mid-plea, turned my phone off, and went back to work. For the first time in months, I smiled. Sometimes karma doesn't need any help at all. The day after Vincent's desperate call about the eviction, my phone rang again. His name flashed on the screen and I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should hear whatever he had to say. They're gone, he said without preamble. Mom, Dad, Carmen, the kids, they all left. Come home, Nat. We can go back to how things were, he said. I almost laughed at the suggestion. Go back? As if the past months could be erased like water stains from a wall. There's no going back, Vincent, I said. Please, his voice cracked. Ms. Chen's asking for so much money. Maybe we could split the costs? Half the fine and the back rent? I can't afford it on my own, he said. This time I did laugh, a sharp, bitter sound that surprised even me. Oh, now you want to split things fairly? Where was this concern for fairness when I was paying for everyone's groceries and utilities? When they took over my office, my home, my savings account. But what about your real, close-knit family? I interrupted. Surely they'll help you pay. After all, I'm just a lonely orphan with no real family, remember? I said. A week later, I heard through our mutual friend Amy that Ms. Chan had evicted Vincent. She told me he'd shown up at his parents' doorstep with his bags, only to be turned away. The irony was almost poetic. Vincent's final call came as I was finishing dinner in my peaceful new apartment. My divorce papers lay on the coffee table, filed that morning. "Please, Nat," he begged, "I've lost everything. The house, my job reference, everything. I made a mistake. We could start over." "I've learned my lesson," he said. I looked around my small but tranquil apartment. My laptop sat on my desk where I'd left it. My coffee mug was exactly where I'd placed it. No unauthorized charges on my bank account, no chaos in the kitchen, no family members demanding money. "You're right about one thing, Vincent," I said quietly. "You did lose everything. But you lost it yourself, one choice at a time. Every time you chose your family over our marriage, every time you dismissed my financial concerns, every time you watched them drain our savings and said nothing. I can change." He tried to talk. "I've already filed for divorce," I cut him off. "And no, this isn't up for discussion. You showed me exactly who you are and what I mean to you. Consider it a gift." "Now I'll never waste another moment wondering," I said. I hung up and blocked his number. Outside my window, the sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. On my desk, a fresh assignment waited for my attention. My phone remained blessedly silent. Sometimes I think about what my aunt would say if she could see me now. She always told me that family isn't about blood. It's about love, respect, and mutual support. She was right, of course. She usually was. I might have no real family, as Vincent so cruelly pointed out, but I finally understood something important. Being alone isn't the same as being financially exploited. And sometimes the family you're born with, or marry into, isn't the family you can afford. Sometimes you have to save yourself and your bank account. And that's exactly what I did.